Connecting your Murr IO-Link master to your network is made quite easy by using the rotary switches on the device. These switches are used to determine the IP address. There are 3 ways to set the IP address. Set it as static IP by setting the last octet. Determine the IP address using DHCP. And last, you can use the save IP address that is set in the web server. For this last option, since connecting to the web server is done by using the current IP address, you will first need to use an initial IP address before being able to set the saved address. For this video, I will show setting a static IP address initially to get my first connection to the web server. Then I'll change the address to the final saved address. Typically, this will be the most common process. Let's talk about the rotary switches. Out of the box, the rotary switches are set to 000, which sets the master to DHCP. This allows your router or other device to determine the IP address externally. For those of you that can access your DHCP table and see this IP address, this will allow you to just connect to the device and then make the changes to your web server. Those of you without this DHCP access would be best served setting a static IP address at first, then changing the saved IP address through the web server. To set a static IP address, you'll use these 3 rotary switches to set the last octet in the IP address. So the first 3 octets of my device will be this, and I will set the rotary switches to 160. So I have my static IP address set now. Let's power up the device and get connected to the web server. Open up a web browser and type in the static IP address of your Murr IO-Link master. You will need to sign in to change the IP address, so select the Sign In option. By default, the user is admin and the password is private. Now go to the Setting Maintenance option and expand the Interface Configuration control. Here I'll change the IP address to have the last octet of 180. Then select Apply. Now I'll power down the IO-Link master, switch the rotary switches to 255, which will cause the device to use the last saved address, power back up the device, and now I'll be able to access the master at the new IP address. Now you have your Murr IO-Link master set to a fixed IP address, and you can deploy it to your production. If you have any questions on this or any other features of the Murr IO-Link master, please feel free to comment below or call into our award-winning technical support team. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new products and solutions.